earlier.
Now we're in.
Gotcha. So what's going on, everybody? Marc Cesar. I am currently based in Charlotte, North Carolina. Actually, I'm outside of Charlotte in Midland, North Carolina. I recently moved out here about, I'll say in August of last year from by ways of New York City. And I've pretty much been in the multifamily space since 2019. I am an aspiring investor looking to get my first deal done as well. But in 2021, I have really been buckling down and networking like crazy. Believe it or not, I am very introverted. This is like probably my first speaking engagement on a meetup. So bear with me if I screw up. Don't crucify me. But yeah, I mean, I've really learned how to become an effective networker, how to, the things to do and not to do. And actually, I've taken a few courses in the past on public networking. And believe it or not, I'm one who actually never used to network. I probably can count on my hands the amount of meetups that I've been to in my career in real estate. I would say about like 2 or 3 because I hated it. I'm very introverted. But last year, I really challenged myself to step out and just, especially with everything going virtual, it's actually opened a whole new world for me. And I'm sure for everyone like yourselves on, connecting with various people that you probably would never meet on a day-to-day basis. So again, I appreciate you, Jerry, for allowing me to just share my tidbit and my expertise that I've, learned throughout last year. I put together like a basic presentation. I'll just breeze through it so we can definitely just get to the meat of this meetup, which is just connecting with everyone. One second, guys.
Let me know if it lets you share.
Yeah, it's giving me access.
Cool. And anybody who just jumped in, feel free to use the chat to put your information, and always remember the 3 dots will download the chat into your computer.
So, basically, again, where I'm just talking about effective networking, I've already gone through the spiel of who I am. I'm father of 4. I started my journey as a wholesaler back in 2015. I actually, Mitch, I heard you mention that you lived in Philly. So I actually used to wholesale out of Philly since 2015. So yeah, I love that market, man. It was a great market until my fellow New Yorkers and foreign buyers just started dumping money in there and just killed the market for me. But it's a great market. And I pretty much I'm a people connector and I'm an avid networker. So I practice what I preach for sure. So I got this quote. It says it's your job as a leader to create and nurture a strong networker you can call a strong network you can call on when the time comes. So I actually took a course not a while back from master networker Patrick Lee. He was the founder of founder and CEO of Rotten Tomatoes. And just like me, he was just super introverted. He was very shy. He would not, when he go into networking meetings, he would be the last person to speak or whatever the case may be. But he ended up just creating different systems for himself to actually become a master networker. And he goes on to coin, if you want to be successful in any business, you have to be good at networking. And networking is all about relationships. You build relationships wherever you go and you build that network over time. Now, a few tips, being that we're virtual, so you can sort of change the layout, but this is more for physical engagement since we're actually going back out into the real world again. One of the tricks that Patrick Lee mentioned, which I loved a lot, is if you're introverted and you're shy, you're not an outspoken person, bring the opposite person, bring a partner with you of the opposite caliber. So again, if you're introverted, bring an extrovert with you. That way, that opens up that person. They have the gift of gab. They know how to talk. They know how to navigate a crowd. You can rely on that person to do the introduction for you and sort of break that proverbial ice. and you let them initiate the conversation, and eventually they will introduce you into the fold, and then you feel a little bit more pressure off of you. You're comfortable to just talk to the people out there. Of course, networking, you have to exchange business cards, but one thing that I've learned is you want to sort of assess the room before you hand business card, because again, your first impression is your defining one. So if your first impression with with the connection really sucked, guarantee you hand them your business card, they're going to throw it away by the end of the day. If not, they're going to throw it on they're just going to crumble it on the spot. So you definitely want to assess that potential connection to get the feel to see, okay, if everything went smoothly, if you guys connect, and if you did, you grab that card, you hand them your card, and you exchange cards. But one tip that I learned, and I practice this all the time, is once I finish networking, before I go to jump into the next round of networking, I throw that contact information into my phone very quickly. I, jot down the tips, notes and stuff, that key notes that the person shared with me in my notes, and I quickly send them a text. I let them know, hey, thanks for connecting. Let's keep in touch, because again, throughout the night, you're just moving around so frequently, to the point that by the next day you may forget to send that person a message, or you may lose that business card. But by you taking the initiative and sending them a quick text on the spot, they're looking at it like, all right, hey, this guy is actually reaching out. I definitely want to follow up with him a little more. Let me hear what he has to say. Now, of course, we all know this, networking is not about you. It's about how the value that you're going to pour into somebody else. It's all, again, it goes back to relationships. So a tip that I learned, we always hear people say, how can I help you? How can I help you? But flip it around a bit. I've learned that to just, to question when I'm talking to people, I've learned to ask the question, what are you struggling with right now? Like what is the biggest challenge that you're facing right now? That way, that really positions you as an authority figure, and you're the dominant figure when you're asking that question. So that person is going to look at you like, okay, this guy he should have the answer to my problem. There's a way he can help me. So it definitely helps position you as a problem solver and an authority in your space, as you can call it a know-it-all, so to speak. You might not know that answer on the spot, but by you asking that really shows to tell that person, okay, he really wants to add value to me. He doesn't just want to take from me and just move on to the next person. So it's very important to definitely ask that question. And of course, the more value you can add to people, the more problems you can solve, the more your name will circulate around as a go-to person. That, okay, this guy's a go-giver. He's not just out for self. He really genuinely wants to help out and provide value to me and my network. Of course, quality, it's all about quality and not quantity. So many people feel that if I go to a networking event, if I collect 100 cards, hey, I'm a great networker. That's not the case. You really want to focus on the people who you can build a strong, mutual, beneficial relationship with. So
Make sure I'm mute. Okay, good. Sorry about that.
So you definitely want to meet the right people, meet the people who are important. Meeting the right people is more important than the amount of people you meet. So you can be in a room of 50 people. Let's say I'm in this room right now. I can meet one person, and that person can change the trajectory of my Q1, with me wanting to do a goal. So let's say, out of everybody here, I reached out to Mitch, and, Mitch says, you know what, I have a deal, let's partner on it. There goes my Q1. That person can be key. So it's not about how many people you meet. It's really meeting that one or two people, or one person or two, or pretty much a key person that can change the trajectory of what you're looking to do in your career. And of course, before attending any event, I actually learned this from Hunter Thompson, his book, Raising Capital for Real Estate. He actually said before attending any event, you want, whether it be virtual or in person, you want to know what you're going for specifically, and what will help you get to that next level. So you don't want to go blindsided. You want to have an action plan. It's not just, okay, I'm going to just network and shake hands, but you want to know, okay, I'm going to meet X amount of investors. I'm going to meet people who can help me raise capital. I'm going to meet a contractor. I'm going to meet a coach, a business, a mentor, or something. And by having that laser focus, now your subconscious is also going to remind you that, okay, if I'm going into that room, I don't want to hear all the noise. I don't want to see all the shiny objects. I'm going for the very thing that I want to go for, which can help me to the next level. And he goes down, he actually breaks it down into he calls it a $2,000 night. And I actually love that system, and I apply it to this day, where if I go into a room, I go with the mindset of, okay, who is my $2,000 connection, or who is going to give me $2,000 worth of ideas that can help me get closer to my goal. So a 2000 idea, a $2,000 idea can be something as simple as, someone coming in and say, hey, there's this new law that the SEC just threw out, that's going to prevent you from, raising capital a certain way, or there's a new law that's going to affect, how you do business, or whatever the case may be. You may have not known that on your own, but by connecting with somebody who can tell you that, that could save you a lot of headaches down the line. That's a $2,000 idea. And again, a $2,000, another $2,000 example of $2,000 idea is, like a mastermind. Somebody might recommend you to a mastermind you might have never heard of. And that mastermind, you sign up and you find out, hey, if you were looking to raise capital, you find out there are 20 members in there who have capital to deploy and are just looking for the right opportunity. You may have never have known that had you not have that laser focused mindset and gone to that networking event and connected with that right person. So that's why it's imperative to actually have an action plan and know what you're going for before you even enter the room. And of course, a $2,000 connection, as I mentioned, is someone that can pretty much just, do a 180 and change the trajectory of where you're at right now to where you want to go. So again, by knowing what you're looking for, you'll identify the beneficial ideas to you from the various conversations that you're going to have. So always listen. So you might be talking to one person, you just hear someone across the room say, hey, I have $1 million, and I'm helping people raise money. I've gone to many events. I've actually gone to like a Michael Blanc event, a deal making mastermind, and I was physically talking to one person, and right next to me another guy was saying, hey, I'm from California, I have money to deploy, and I have a large network, who are looking to deploy capital as well. And top of my head, like, yeah, I need to know this guy. I need to shake his hand. And I actually did. And I got his card, and we built a lucrative relationship from there. So it's always important to listen, to pay attention to what other people are saying, and just take mental notes, and, make sure you reach out to those connections for sure. Be genuine with people. I think that's pretty self-evident. You just want to show people that you're interested. Again, being a goal giver is key. You don't want to reach out to people just to take from them, and that's a selfish relationship. You want to make sure that you're giving to them, you're genuine, you're showing that you really care about what they're sharing and how they've impacted you or how they've added to you. And by doing so, again, the doors will open. People will definitely share their wisdom and their knowledge and their resources with you. um, Eleanor Roosevelt actually said this great quote. She said, "You gain strength and courage. You gain strength, courage, and confidence by experiencing which you really stop to look at fear in the face. You are able to say to yourself, I have lived through this horror. I can take the next thing that comes along. You must do the thing you think you cannot do. If you're introverted," so basically, it's stepping outside of your comfort zone. So I use the example, like for me, I've always been introverted, but last year I actually got challenged at the top of the year. It's like, all right, start a meetup. And I questioned it in my head, like, all right, why the heck would I want to do that? Who's going to listen to me? And lo and behold, I started a meetup, and it was very successful. I've had plenty of guest speakers. I've actually ran a meetup successfully, and I got challenged again, start a podcast. Thrown in the fire, like, all right, who's going to want to listen to me speak? I really don't like my voice. Just throw that out there. But I did it, and my podcast is successful. It's still running to this day. So I'm grateful for that. But again, I stepped out of my comfort zone and I've challenged myself and I accepted the challenge that was thrown at me, and I found success in it. And in that, basically by doing something that you're scared to do, you're overcoming. You're pretty much just rewiring your brain in a sense where you're learning to overcome the obstacles that are in front of you, and you'll feel unstoppable at the end of the day. So whatever challenges come, once you actually overcome and you win at that challenge, and whatever else get thrown at you, it's like, all right, I'm just going to deflect. I'm just going to jump in the fire, both feet first, and just whatever happens, happen. But I'm undoubtedly going to conquer that challenge, regardless of how hard it is or how big it is. Again, it's a psychological thing. You definitely want to just go out and just face the challenge head on. And lastly, you just want to pay it forward. One of the biggest things that I see is when people, they build a network, you have certain people who just choose to hide that network, just keep it like a precious commodity. I'm not sure why. And again, people connect with people all over the place. But I'm a firm believer that if I connect with people every day, I'm going to connect with somebody who's going to need some help, some form of help down the line. And I may not have the answer, but in the back of my head, I remember like, hey, I have a large network, and there's someone in there that may be able to help that person. So I'll make an introduction. Now that way, you're tapping into two different networks. So let's say, Garrett asks a question and he's looking for, let's say, pertaining to real estate, he's looking for a key principal to sign on a loan for him, and he can't find anyone. So I'll just like, hey, okay, hey Garrett, I know somebody who's looking to sign on loans right now. I'll make an introduction. I'll LinkedIn introduction, email introduction. I'll just let that person know, hey, Garrett is looking for this. This is what he does. This is what he's looking for. You're the first person I thought of that can help him. I'll leave it to you to do the rest. Then Garrett just made a new connection. And now when Garrett needs help, or, if I need help down the line, Garrett will remember that, hey, Marc introduced me to somebody. Now he'll be able to allow me to tap into his network, and vice versa with the other individual as well. So paying it forward is very important. You definitely want to, again, it all ties into being a goal giver. You just want to share your network and become a serial connector, which is what I'm striving to be. And of course, I just keep a slide. You want to network all over. That's pretty much it. Networking all over is basically, I typically do see a lot of people, especially in the space that we're in, where they frequent one or two meetups pertaining to the real estate space, multifamily space on a consistent basis, which is sort of a deficit, because again, there are so many other networks out there that are untapped. So for me, I actually fell into that trap as well, where I would attend 5 specific meetups every week when I first started. But then I realized that my network started getting stagnant. I wasn't meeting new people. So what I decided to do, I stepped back, I cut a lot of the meetups I was attending. And instead of going to strictly multifamily meetups, I would find residential real estate meetups. I would go to, any other kind of meetup that's dealing with financials or whatever the case may be. That way I become the authority figure in that meetup. So if they're talking about, 401ks and so forth like that, people are, they're learning from whoever's running that meetup, but I'm bringing another side to the story to them. Like, all right, hey, did you know you can actually use your 401k or self-directed IRA to invest in real estate? And, these are the benefits. And most of the time the question is like, I never thought about that. Tell me more. So it's always good to, step outside of your comfort, step outside of your comfort zone again, and, just cast a wider net. So by doing so, now you're actually reaching a wider pool of people that others may not think about touching. And guess what? Now you're building your network, you're building your investor database, you're building, you're raising capital from different sources, you're finding deals. Again, it ties back into the same thing, which I hear a lot. People are saying, hey, I need deals, I need deals. And about 90% of the people are people, especially newcomers, they tend to just go to the broker route, but no one goes to the attorneys, no one goes to the insurance guys, no one goes to, the lowest person on the totem pole in the brokerage to ask them, hey, do you have any off-market listings or stuff like that? So you want to go the unconventional route and just think outside the box. And pretty much that's what has worked for me the entire of last year. And I built a database of over 1,500 people in my database just to strictly networking. And that, my database consists of, passive investors, accredited investors, attorneys, this and that in the case. And I'm constantly every day, I'm referring people to different people and I'm connecting people to, to whatever they need. And that way my name is circulating around, people are reaching out to me like, hey, I heard you're that guy who connected this person. And I'm like, I never met you before, but I'm looking to build a relationship with you right there. So that's all I have. I hope this tidbit definitely helped. Again, if you guys put into practice, again, whatever you can take out of what I just shared, just apply it, and I guarantee you'll definitely see the dividends. That's it for me, Jerry.
Mark, that was great. That was awesome.
Thank you, sir.
So many pieces of nuggets out there. So yeah, I think everyone came here obviously to network on as one of the reasons. The purpose that I started this was, the Carolina multifamily connection. Really, I was sitting home here in New Jersey, and I wanted to invest out of state. And this was during the time when everybody kind of was forced to take their meetups virtual. So I would jump in on Asheville, North Carolina, listen to a bunch of people talking real estate there. And the idea was like, well, eventually this is going to go away. So why don't I set something up where, always you're going to have a place for out-of-state investors to connect with local or boots on the ground, if you will. So that's, it's just about connecting. Like you said, that's great. So anyone, this is an open forum, jump in with some questions. I'll ask the first question since I'm here. So Mark, you mentioned, that, hey, the amount of contacts that you built up. What is a way that you systematize that or manage also the follow-up and fostering those relationships?
Sure. So I do have a CRM that I use. I pretty much have everything funneled through a calendar. So every time I schedule a call or someone schedules calls with me, it automatically just populates into my CRM. And I just take notes, I let the person talk, I ask key questions, what are they looking to do and so forth like that, what's the goal that they're trying to achieve and so forth. And once I get that key information, I listen to key tips, key points that they're mentioning. And basically I create a follow-up system from there. So, if I'm talking to you and you say, hey, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for a deal, and Greenville and so forth. So I'll notate that in my CRM and I'll follow up with you within 30 to 60 days. And in the interim, I'll reach out to my network like, hey, does anyone have any deals that they're looking to offload in Greenville? And if I find something, I'll immediately shoot you an email like, hey, Jerry, I have someone who's looking to move this deal. Would you be interested? I'll make the connection.
Awesome.
So Mark, you'd mentioned that you're going, once your networking gets a little stagnant, you start hitting other networking groups. You had mentioned that you're pretty much an introvert. Have you just kind of gotten used to walking into different meetups and connecting with other people? Once moving away from your networking group that you're seeing all the time, has that gotten easier over time for you since you're doing it more and more?
Honestly, I will still say I'm very introverted. You guys may not have seen it when I first logged in. I just saw the people populating. I was like, oh heck, all right, this is real, this is happening. So it was nerve wracking, but once you get into the swing, once you start it and you get into the swing of things, it's just like, all right, it goes over your head and you're just focused on the goal at hand. So again, to answer your question, it does get nerve wracking at points, but once you talk to people and you just find, you break that proverbial ice and you find a common ground and you build that rapport, it's just smooth sailing from there. Just really listening and just talking to people. And again, I'm not the one to strictly talk business with people when I first meet them. I like to get to know who they are. I want to know, okay, hey, if you're from North Carolina, what part of North Carolina are you from? All right, hey, I just moved out here. And we start a whole conversation from there. And before you know, I'm like, all right, hey, let's schedule a call. I want to talk to you further. And we'll talk business from there. So it's all about your approach and just find whatever is comfortable for you.
Yeah, so, something I know that definitely helps because I'm definitely on the introverted side, and I've had to attend conferences in the past, on my own personal time, plus for my day job as well. And I always try, if I can, I like getting a list of the attendees, and I reach out to attendees prior to set up meetings while I'm at that conference because I'm much better one-on-one than going to find somebody in a group or just talking to a random person. So if I can get contact information, I'll shoot them an email, let them know I'm going to be at the conference. We could set aside some time, and that way I can just kind of set up one-on-ones, one right after another, and at least I know I'm going to get a chunk of time where I'm connecting one-on-one with people a little more intimately. And then, I'll also have, remaining time to randomly speak to other people. And a lot of times what ends up happening, the person I end up speaking to one-on-one, they'll connect me with another person that's at the conference, and it kind of snowballs from there. So that always kind of gets the ball rolling for myself.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, to add on to that, to my first point in the slide was, bring someone along with you that if you're uncomfortable doing it yourself, bring someone along with you. Believe it or not, Mr. International Lawrence Laddie, I actually reached out to him. I was like, hey, I'm speaking over here, come out and support. And lo and behold, he came out and support. So it's good to see a familiar face there. It gives me that confidence, and I know that's my bud. We're always laughing and shooting the breeze. So it's good to have him here as the extroverted person that he is to be my wingman and make this whole scene a little smoother for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Lawrence is everywhere. So.
Hey, Marc. Oh,
Go ahead. No, go. Sorry, Marc.
yeah. So a lot of what you spoke about is kind of comes down to just fundamentally being a good human being. Giving before you seek to receive, helping serve others by connecting them with people that you've met along the way. I was wondering if you could just speak to the point of just being a decent human being and the amount that plays into just networking, which I kind of think of as just making friends basically.
No, of course, great question. I think everyone knows this quote: "People will do business with who they know, like, and trust." If I can't trust you, and I'm probably more than likely not going to like you at the end of the day. So I build my brand on integrity and being honest and truthful. So you know, like you said, it's just being human. You don't want to. We live in a world where sales is very prominent. And every time people talk to people, they have their guards up like, all right, what are you looking to sell me now? So I like to go the opposite route. It's like, all right, I'm not looking to sell you. I just want to get to know you. I want to know, who you are, what you're about, what you're looking to do. And sometimes that you can look in people's face that really shocks them because like, okay, he's not asking me for something, especially in the multifamily space. People are, we're in the business of really, raising capital, asking for, stuff like that, presenting opportunities, but for the lack of better words. But you don't want to definitely just reach out to people like, hey, I have an opportunity, do you want to invest? Let me get to know you first. Talk, ask me about my kids, ask me about, if I, talk to me about the Chicago Bulls, for God's sakes, talk to me about something outside of business and, just get to know me. And once you get to know me and you understand who I am, then you can go further. Then we can talk about an opportunity. And I think you guys are very familiar with Bo Beery. He actually stated the same things like, all right, when it comes to brokering, you want to make sure that you reach out to the broker and, find tidbits of information on them, go through their social media on pages, go through, learn their birth date, learn who their wife is, that sounds kind of stalkerish in a bit, but, see who their family, find the family picture and identify what schools they went to, and, just reach out to that broker like, hey, I just saw I heard your daughter graduated last year. Congratulations, man. Where they're going to. And stuff like that really warms up to the broker, because in their minds, like, all right, this guy actually took the time to learn who I am. This guy actually took the time to research who I am. So let me connect with him a little more. Let me, break down that wall and allow him into my circle. And from there, it's pretty much smooth sailing from there.
Thanks, Mark.
Welcome, sir.
Hi, Mark. Martine here, joined by my little investor to be. You spoke briefly, or you mentioned briefly in your presentation with regards to mentorship. I think for me, at the stage that I'm currently in, what would be important would be to be able to network with folks who are willing to teach it forward. There are certain fields, certain professional fields that you are a part of that, require that you pay your mentor. And I think that there's a lot of value in that. I'm curious if you could speak to, if any, what mentorship opportunities are. He's very, very focused on you guys. What mentorship opportunities have you encountered in your own experience, or to anyone else really? If any, how have you had any experience with mentors in the multifamily domain or space?
I have had, I've paid a substantial amount of money for mentorship. I will not badmouth them. They were very useful. But I think that I could have done it differently if I had the chance, if I had the opportunity to do it over again. Of course, there will be a time where you have to pay for education, because that education will save you millions of dollars down the line. But there are also people in the space who are readily available to just share their knowledge with you. It's what a value that you're going to bring to the table. So it's not just reaching out to somebody saying, hey, can you teach me how to do this? What are you giving me back in return? So this goes back to my initial question, like, all right, what challenges are you having right now in your business, that you're facing? So let's say if the person says, hey, I'm having an issue with bookkeeping or something like that, and you're a bookkeeper, bells should be ringing in your head like, hey, let me take a look at your books if you don't mind. Let me see how I can help you with that. And you're bringing value there. So once you help them with that situation, they're more than likely like, hey, listen, I would love to learn what you're doing. I would love to, get more insight on what you're doing. I'm inspired to be in the field. Can I learn something from you? Can you, share a tidbit with me? And believe it or not, they'll share their entire knowledge with you, so long that you provide value. So, and that's a common mistake that I see people, especially, but I still see people do the same thing. It's like, hey, can I take you to get coffee just to pick your brain? I think we're long past those days. No one wants to waste their time drinking coffee anymore, just to share free knowledge, especially if the person's been in the space for 20 years and that's 20 years of wisdom that they have, and you're asking them to share 20 years of knowledge over a $5 cup of Starbucks coffee, that does not equate at all. So that's where how can I add value to you? But in the sense of, hey, what are you struggling with? Basically you're just asking, hey, what can I take off your plate from you? And by adding that value, you can pose a question, hey, this is what I need help with. Can you help me? Hope that helped.
Thank you. That helps. That definitely. I'm trying to be a little bit more present, or actually trying to attend a few different kinds of meetings throughout the month, like at least 2 to 3 every month. And it's always kind of like, I don't have a specific goal. I'm just there to learn and absorb. So it's very good to hear like what your approach has been and what the possibilities are still out there. I do agree, a $5 cup of coffee for 20 years of experience doesn't seem like a fair trade. But thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Mark, another question. I know the podcast probably takes up a lot of your time, but do you ever, do you structure your networking? Like you set goals for yourself, like I want to make 10 calls to brokers this week, or, reach out to 5 investors. Do you do that on a weekly or monthly basis, or you kind of just, take it week by week and see how it flows? And then second part of that question is, the podcast probably is a large time commitment. So probably not everybody maybe can do that. Is there, if you had to choose, maybe, if you didn't have time for a podcast, what would you recommend is like the best ROI as far as, pursuing networking? Would it be try to get out there once a month to a meetup, or, pursue online time and try to connect with people there?
Sure. So to answer the first part of your question, my coach has me structure my days and my months. So I know we were talking about this on Sunday, where I live by calendar. So my calendar is broken down in 30-minute increments, and people really hate me for that. Even my own wife hates me for that sometimes. But I'm like, if you need to talk to me and I'm between business hours, put it on the calendar. If it's not, I'm not going. I will not honor it. So basically for me, like my days are structured where every day I want to send out, I prospect a lot. So for the week, I want to send out at least 102 LinkedIn connections. And that's broken down to 17 connections a day. And I want those 17, I want to schedule 2 calls every day for 6 days, for 7 days, 6 or 7 days. 2 Zoom calls or phone calls. So that way that's prospecting, that's networking for me. I do have time where I allocate, where I stop working and I just focus on networking. So like on Tuesdays, I'm at Lawrence's meetup. Mondays used to be my meetup at 7. So I have set times where I schedule time for networking. I schedule time for prospecting, which is another form of networking. And to answer your second question, as far as the podcast is concerned, again, I sort of got thrown into that scene, that arena, but it is very time consuming, but I consider it another form of networking because I'm actually reaching out to people and say, hey, I need you to share your story on my podcast. And by doing so, I'm giving them a platform. They're tapping into my space, my network that I'm building. And in return, I'm getting free knowledge from them. So it's pretty much a win-win situation. But for those who don't want to start a podcast, I would say, if you have time on your hands and, you can attend 2 to 3 priority meetups out there that you know of, or that someone recommended you to. Someone recommended you to, I would say make the time, schedule the time, try to find some time outside of your schedule and attend those meetups and network. If you can do one a month and it's physical, then do that as well. But again, you always want to keep that engine going, because I actually just learned that after a certain amount of time, after 90 days of being stagnant, it's hard to get back into the into the swing of things. So you definitely want to keep the wheels turning when it comes to networking, because again, you don't want to lose that momentum and have to start over from scratch. So you just want to keep at it every day, find a schedule and just keep it going.
Great, thank you.
Sure. I'm surprised Mr. International don't have any questions. He would normally take the opportunity to ask a bunch of questions by now.
Jerry, I think you're muted.
I'm coming. Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Happy New Year, everyone. Mark, what questions do you lead off with? Do you have anything, like when you're talking to people, what do you say to them to get to create a meaningful connection with them? A lot of times people talk about, want to talk about business. What do you lead off with to talk to them to get to know them?
Simple stuff. I'll typically ask them, hey, where are you from? Or if I see especially now that we're on Zoom, some people will have like in their name section, they'll have like, hey, I'm from Florida. And I was like, okay, hey, what part of Florida are you from? And if it's a part that I know, I'll pretty much piggyback like, hey, yeah, I have family out there as well, and I like that market. What are your thoughts? And again, it's just finding that common ground, finding somewhere you can relate to them. It doesn't always have to be business. If they kick it off business, I would say just ride the wave and talk business. But if you're starting off the conversation, just tell a little bit about yourself, and ask them to just give you that 30-second elevator pitch. And I'm pretty sure you see me do that whenever I go to meet up. Like, all right, yeah, tell us about yourself. Let us know, how can we help you? And people will tell you.
Thank you. And good meeting, man.
Yes, sir.
Great presentation, brother.
I appreciate you jumping on.
You know I would.
So Lawrence, before you go, you have a weekly meetup.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things, so I always mention my story when I started this. I started this December of 2020, right? And part of it was, I was talking to Jason Yarusi, and I was like, oh, I want to do this. I want to set up this. And he's just like, do it. And I was like, oh, all right. And I just literally signed up and I just did it. But I remember reading a little bit about Adams, who's has a weekly meetup, and he was talking about, he did it physically in Denver, and he's like, sometimes you go at lunch, that he did it at lunch, and he's like, sometimes 5 people will show up, sometimes 20 people show up, sometimes 1 person. If nobody shows up, you just do some work on the laptop. So it's like, but he was consistent. So how do you keep a weekly meetup going?
Like, I'm gonna tell you, you said Adam Adams. That's where I get everything I got is from Adam Adams. Like when I start my meetup, I go around the screen. He said, and I listened to some of his podcasts, and I took stuff down, took notes down. He said, but he hasn't had a physical meeting. Everybody get in a circle and they go around and ask everybody what they do, a 30-second introduction. And that's where I got that from. Being consistent is like last year, I wasn't consistent in getting guests, as Marc can attest. I would tell him, oh my gosh, right? But this year here, I made a commitment to myself, to my coach, and to my who does my what, that will change my ways. And I meant that. So I did. I'm booked already up to March. I'm about to be booked by the end of this week. By the end of this week, by middle of next week, I'll be booked up for March, right? Because I like Marc said, podcast meetup is putting yourself out there. That's what it's about. It's creating a platform, a third-party platform for yourself, and it's also it helps you get me people, right? If nothing else, it helps you get me people. And as everybody knows, people are the oil that greases the engine here, right? And but you also remember that you're making. When you're out here doing this, you're also looking to make meaningful relationships, right? Because like Marc said, if the guy starts off with something about business, that's great. But if you start a business, that's not what it's about. Because people don't care how much you know, they know how much you care. That's it.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure.
So if anyone else have question for Marc before we sign off and start going into the breakout rooms. That's funny. Marc mentioned how Lawrence is retired, so he has a lot of time for these networking events.
No, I'll be honest with you. This year I get back into the swing. The last 6 months, I don't know what happened, but like me and Marc and Aaron were talking about this, about managing your time, right? And I'm reading this book about time management, and there's no such thing as time. You got to manage your time. There's not time management. Is you got to manage it. You got to, like Marc said, he's blocking calendar and everything else. I'm following his footsteps. I got to start blocking things off. Because there's not time will run away from you. Because you're retired doesn't mean you have more time. Everybody's 24 hours a day. It's how you use it.
I can attest, I knew Lawrence when he was working and he was still out there, networking a lot, so.
So
Right on.
here's a question for anyone, Mark or anybody. When you meet so many people, though, you do find that you run into, yeah, I don't want to say like time wasters, but people that also, you want to help as many as you can, but then you also sometimes connect with. And so how do you manage that process of like, being able to decipher like, that your time is valuable? Kind of, I guess like with Mark, you said you use your calendar link. Is that a way to do it?
I won't say there's a right or wrong answer. I'm still figuring that part out. But I typically look through people's LinkedIn page and I really see like, okay, if you're actively talking to people, or if you're engaging or sharing something that's worthwhile to that, will catch my attention, that will make me want to reach out, then I will do so. But if not, more than likely, even if you schedule a call on my calendar, I'll take the call, but I'll gauge within the first, 2 to 3 minutes, like where the call is going. And, I'll just be very candid, like, hey, listen, I'll find out what they want, find out how I can help them. I still do make an attempt to help them the best that I can. But again, I'm not going to give them my full 30 minutes because I can actually allocate that 30 minutes somewhere that's more productive than sitting on the call. And I'm learning how to weed those individuals out. I'm still figuring it out, but it's not a foolproof process for me yet. So if anyone has a sure-proof process of how they do it, please let me know how it works. I'd be glad to add that to my game.